today's session, I'll be speaking to you about the various tasks you have to take up when you are doing your advanced software engineering project, which is part of your BIT with code CSI 11. The first task you have to take up is choosing a problem. The problem should be a situation which is depicting the real life situation. It is not essential that you go to some industry and do the project. It can be a mock project also, but the project should be depicting a situation of the real life, though you are not really working for an organization which is going to use your software. By doing such project, it will be useful for you when you go to the interviews. The reason is the industry will be needing such people who work on such projects. In today's session, what I will be doing is, after you choose your problem for the project, what are the tasks you have to take up? I will be explaining all the tasks to you from number 1 to the last part of the completion of project. But before that, I would like to tell you that whenever you choose your problem and whenever you start your project, it is very much essential that you use latest softwares like Java, etc., which are having a large demand in the market. So first of all, let me tell you about the topics that are going to be covered as part of your CSI 11. Please have a look at the slide. The topics that are to be covered are developing a project plan, performing systems analysis and design, writing program code, implementing the solution to the system, assessing the quality of the software developed, studying the aspects relating to the maintainability, obtaining the feedback about your project through presentation. Among all these steps, the first one is project planning. So let me first of all speak about the objective of the project planning. The objective of the project planning is to provide a framework that enables the project manager to make reasonable estimates of resources, cost and schedule. Basically, once you enter your profession of software development, to become a project manager, you will be needing at least 8 years experience. But at the same time, as part of advanced software engineering project, first of all, your role will be that of a project manager. A project manager is a person who can visualize the things that can go wrong during the development of the software. So he should take all precautions, like what may go wrong during the project, and he should be cautious about them during the planning itself. The situations will be varying. The requirements will be varying depending upon the situation. The requirements from the client will be varying. Nothing is standard. So the job of the project manager is to expect even such changes when they may happen. If at all they happen, are we prepared or not? Do we have enough manpower? Do we have required financial resources? Do we have software resources, hardware resources, etc.? That is the duty of the project manager. So the objective is to provide a framework that enables the project manager to make reasonable estimates of resources, cost and schedule. As I said, the resources means software and hardware resources. Cost means what will be the total cost of the project, including the salaries that we will be paying to the manpower, etc. And then effort estimation means how many people have to be employed and how long they have to be employed. So these three are the most important components of the project planning. Now let me go through the different activities of the project planning. They are software scope. Software scope means making a statement of scope. Then comes resources, means what are the resources required, like human resources, software, hardware resources, etc. Then comes software project estimation. In this we will be concentrating on the cost estimation and effort estimation. So the first topic is software scope. As part of software scope, what you will be doing is you will be making a statement of the entire problem which you have chosen as part of your project. The statement should be made in such a way that you can make all requirements from those statements. So let me first of all go through that software scope. The different components of the software scope are functions, cost, schedule, then comes performance, processing time, response time, Then comes constraints, external hardware, available memory, other existing systems. So as part of functions, what does your software do? This is the first question you have to ask as part of your functions. What is the functionality of your software? What it exactly does? Then what are the changes that should be able to be incorporated into your software? Then you have to choose the software and hardware, and you have to take a decision regarding the choosing of software and hardware in such a way that whenever there is a situation of changing the functions of the project, then the software and hardware should be able to cope up with it. So these are the most important things as part of your software scope. For example, let me give an example problem. Like let us say you have a company, bottling company of Coke or Pepsi. You will be having a conveyor belt on which bottles will be filled with a drink, and they will be going through some machine which will be putting caps on the bottles. So you have to prepare software which will be controlling such a system, wherein the bottles will be moving on the conveyor belt and they will be going through some compartment wherein the cap will be put to the bottle, and you will be having some data like the space between two bottles, the frequency of putting caps. These both are dependent, but at the same time the components are independent. Now what your software should do is it should schedule the capping in such a way that it exactly happens to each and every bottle one after another without missing. Now what are the different situations that may arise from this particular problem? At the first sight, when you see the problem, the specifications are very clear. You need to write a real-time software using some programming language for a bottling company, and the software will be making the total bottling, total capping of the bottles computerized in the real time. But at the same time, there are some cautions you have to take. Let us say the speed of the conveyor belt increases, then the bottles are going to move fast. But then your software should also instruct the compartment to take care of the capping also to be done faster. Suppose that the spacing between the bottles increases or decreases, even then there is a change in the situation. So you have to take care of all these things and then the develop software so that it works well in all types of situations. So that is why when you are making the statement of scope itself, you have to think what may change, what situations may arise, and what may go wrong. If at all it goes wrong, will the software crash or will the software work? And you should always develop software in such a way that it doesn't crash and it absorbs all the changes and it works for all types of situations. All these things will be taken care during the software scope functions problem. And the second topic is performance, processing time and response time. As of processing time and response time is concerned, the response time is nothing but the time taken for the program to output after it received input. That is known as the response time. Now in this case, the example in which I have just explained, the response time should be in microseconds after a change in the situation. Whenever you are thinking of the processing times, you should also think of the software. So when you are choosing a software, you should very much keenly think of what are the response times that the software should be capable of giving. So for example, if you are using a C language which will be supporting the bitwise operators, then that language will be suitable for all types of real life systems because they are directly working on the memory. If you are choosing some let us say database software like Oracle, then they are perfectly suitable for huge database applications. So in this case, what happens is the processing times depend on the software, and another thing is they also depend on the availability of the memory. Suppose that the memory availability is less in your computer, then the process of swapping, paging, all these things will take longer time, and so the processing time becomes longer. So the response time becomes longer. So whenever the conveyor belt speed increases or decreases, the response time of the software changes, and it might not be in synchronization with the speed of the conveyor belt, which may create problems for the client. So you should always choose your software in such a way that no such problems will occur with your software. Let us look to the next point. The constraints: external hardware, available memory, other existing systems. So at the same time, there will be some constraints from the client point of view. As a project manager, as a person who is belonging to a software development company, for a particular problem, you may say that this will be perfect for if we develop it in Visual C++, and you might be saying that it will be good if you are using a 68000 Motorola processor. At the same time, the client will be having his own constraints. His manpower might not be aware of the Visual C++. He might not be having the platform of Motorola which you specified. So all these come as part of constraints. Keeping in view of these constraints, you should always develop software in accordance with the requirements of the client, so that he doesn't have any problem with the training of manpower for those particular softwares. He doesn't have any problem of again procuring the infrastructure, which will be expensive and which will take time for him to put the systems online. So all these things come under constraints. So these three are the most important points in the software scope. So let me just read through all the 3 points once again. They are functions. In this you will be deciding the cost and schedule. Then comes performance. It is relating to processing time and response time. Then comes constraints: external hardware, available memory, other existing systems. Now just let us see to what extent the software scope is very important for the success of any software. Just consider two systems. They are air traffic control system and the inventory system. The two systems are totally different. In the case of air traffic control system, suppose that your specifications are not correct. As a project manager, you did not visualize the situation in a proper manner. You are unable to make a proper software statement of scope, and you are unable to choose proper hardwares, or you are unable to predict what may go wrong in future and did not take precautions. Then there is a chance of loss of life. The problem is, air traffic control system is something which is working directly on the humans. For example, I would like to remind you about the tragedy of A320 fly-by-wire aircraft. Due to an error in the computer, the flight got wrong instructions from the software and it had crashed, and all the passengers, around 200 people, died. So this is the significance of the software. So as a project manager, you will be the responsible person if such things happen. Now the second software is inventory control system. Inventory control system keeps track of what materials are procured, what are the requirements of the clients, how many products have to be shipped out, how many products are need to be shipped in, and what are the instructions to be given to the manufacturer, how much amount has been paid by customers as advance, what are the outstanding payments, etc. In such a system, suppose something goes wrong, then it is not as drastic as that of the air traffic control system. So there is a difference of the impact of the failures of the project planning on project to project. But at the same time, a project manager should take things very serious, and he should take care of all problems, because even having a problem in inventory management system may create a loss of crores of rupees for the company where this software is employed and where the problems have occurred. So when you are making a statement of scope, first make a statement of scope and then don't go to the next step immediately. Refine it. You read it twice, you show it to your friends, and you also try to consult some organization which is having function similarities to that of your project. For example, suppose that you are developing some library management system. After making a statement of scope in accordance to your knowledge, you try to contact some library and show the problem to them, and then discuss the problems with them, like what may arise due to these systems, like what you need to observe in the system, what not to, what are the cautions you have to take. You have to be care of all these things. Unless you take care, the statement of scope, which is the step 1 of project planning, if at all there is any problem in that, then there is a guarantee that your project will be traveling in the wrong direction, and ultimately once it is implemented on the site of the client, or even if you are running it in your class in a demonstration, definitely it will not meet the specifications which are you are thinking that it is meeting and which you think that the specifications are. So my instruction is, in the making of statement of scope itself, you try to spend good amount of time, because it is the direction of the project, the starting point. So let us go to the next topic, resources. The resources are hardware or software tools, reusable software components, then people. Now, as of hardware and software tools are concerned, these are the tools which will be providing infrastructure to the software. Once you choose your hardware and software, and once you start your developmental work in that direction, hardly there are any chances that you can change them. They come at the bottom of the pyramid of the software development. Resources. So in these three resources, the first step is software or hardware resources. If you go wrong in the selection of choosing the proper hardware and software, then the remaining resources will also suffer, and you will be unable to estimate the requirement of the remaining resources also. Suppose that you are developing a real-time system, then you should choose a C language or something based on C language. Suppose that you are going for a database project. Depending on the size of the database, you can go for MS Access or you can go for Oracle. At the same time, if you are planning to move your database project onto the internet, then you should go for a software like Oracle 8i. At the same time, if your project is containing multiple inputs, means inputs from several locations, and if there are going to be a lot of queries which will be prompting the software to output the data from the database, then you should think of using an Oracle application server. If you think of that your project will be expanding to a point wherein the clients will be doing some shopping, something like that, through your software, wherein they will be entering the credit card numbers, etc., then you should think of security also, and then choose the appropriate software like Oracle 11i, etc., for development. Suppose that you choose something like MS Access in the beginning itself, and you start developing your project. At some point of time, your client says that the database size should be so much, which cannot be handled using MS Access. Then you will be facing a problem. After that, he says, I want to move to the net. All these problems will start, and at that time, whatever work you have done is automatically cancelled. The reason is you have to start from the point 1 of choosing hardware and software resources. When you are thinking of such a situation in an industry, they are going to lose a lot. The investment they have put in the people, the reputation of the company in the eyes of the client, the turnover, the profits, the rankings they get from the independent organizations, all these things will go down. So you have to take things in the software development very seriously. As a student, when you are doing a mock project, you might be convincing yourself that, okay, this is enough. If that cannot be done with this software, okay, let me leave it. When you are going for such things, in future you will be useful for nothing. So whatever it be, whether it be a mock project or whether it be an industry project or a systems programming project, whatever it is, you have to think that ultimately you will be using it and you should start. So there is a lot of prominence to the software and hardware. So the next point is, what are the characteristics of each resource? Please have a look at the slide. For each resource, there are some characteristics. They are description of the resource, statement of availability, chronological time that the resource will be required, duration of time that resource will be applied. All these 4 points are the characteristics of each resource. So let us start with the first one, description of the resource. So let us start with human resources. Human resources means the manpower, and you should decide how many people you need. What is the background needed? Does the software in which you are seeking expertise is having demand or not? If at all there is demand, is there enough of manpower pool in the market or not? What happens if some X who is employed by you leaves the company? All these things you have to take care. And only then you should be able to think of, okay, then let me use this software because there are no problems with the manpower. You will be able to get an easy replacement if the person leaves the organization. So this is what you will be doing in the description of the resource. The second is statement of availability. As I just said, what is the availability of the manpower? Are there enough manpower or not? Is the technology outdated? Because there were a lot of industries which are using even outdated technologies because they are having a lot of systems that are developed in those technologies which yet they did not re-engineer into the latest technologies. Under such circumstances, you should go on searching for some person who is having good experience in those outdated technologies. Then you should think of availability. If at all someone is available and suppose that they leave, what happens? Then are there any compatibilities with the softwares that are having demand today? Like suppose that you develop the system in that outdated technology and suppose that the client wants to switch on to some latest technology. Can it be done easily? If that can be done, can you use the same person for the re-engineering also? If not, what are the costs? Should you go for an individual interviews by giving a paper ad, or should you consult some manpower consultants, or should you use the trainees from reputed organizations like IITs, RECs, etc.? All these things you have to think. And you have to give a clear statement of availability as a project manager at this stage. The third one is chronological time that the resource will be required. Exactly when there is requirement of this particular resource. This is what you have to decide at this stage. Chronological time that the resource will be required. So you should also estimate when you need that particular person with those skills. The project's duration vary. In large industry houses, there are projects of duration 5 years and nearly 600-700 people working on that. So you cannot employ some person whom you will be utilizing after 4 years as part of your project. So as a project manager, in the beginning itself, in the statement of availability and description of resource itself, you should also mention the order of requirement. Okay, after these tasks are over, I need that particular person. You should also mention that one. Unless you mention that, it will be impossible for the company to hire that person today itself and feed him for the next 4 years and utilize him after 4 years for 1 year. So you should also come up with the chronological order in which the particular resource is to be required, and also think at that time, are there any chances that the resource might not be available? Whatever technology you choose today and whatever you are planning to use after 4 years might not be available at that time after 4 years. The versions may change, the preference of the people may change, etc. So please look at the slide. Characteristics of each resource. They are description of the resource, statement of availability, chronological time that the resource will be required, and duration of time that the resource will be required. So as I said, after you make the order of requirement, then comes how long you need. How long you need to utilize some software, how long you need to use particular professional, or how long you need to use some third party software, or how long you need to use some third party industries which will be helping you in system integration stage. All these things you have to decide. So only after deciding you will be able to go to the next step. But whatever it is, the most important objective of the project planning is to calculate the cost of your project, how much it is going to cost, all aspects. Then how many people are needed, how long they are needed, and how long will it take for you to complete the project. To arrive at these points, you have to start from the statement of scope. So now let us go to the software project evaluation. There are two components in the software project evaluation. They are software cost estimation and the software effort estimation. So software cost estimation means how much it's going to cost you, and effort estimation means how many people are needed and how long they are needed. There are different methodologies for calculating these, both software cost as well as effort estimations. For example, one technique is decomposition technique, the other is empirical estimation technique. At the same time, both are not accurate, and really depends on the project manager's experience, which he chooses and to what extent he will be flexible that there will be no problems at the end. And it is very unfortunate that you don't have very much clear cut methodologies to estimate the cost as well as the effort. So before going to the point of how to calculate the cost of your project, means you are going to start a project, how much it is going to cost, whatever it is, purchasing of softwares, hiring professionals, paper requirement, power requirement, infrastructural requirements, whatever it is. So let me define an important word called software size. Software size is usually measured in two approaches. One is direct approach, the other is indirect approach. In the direct approach, you will be using the lines of code, means how many lines your program is going to contain, how many lines your code is going to contain. So you are thinking of LOC at the level of project planning itself. You see the problem here. To calculate the cost that will be incurred on your project, there are two approaches. They are direct approach, indirect approach. To use the direct approach, you need LOC. LOC means lines of code. So how many lines of code you are going to write as part of your project, and this you need when you are doing your project planning itself, which is definitely not possible for anyone to tell accurately. First of all, you did not yet choose what software, hardware you will be using and what platform you will be using. Before that itself, you have to decide how many lines of code should be there. So here is a catch. At the same time, as a project manager, it is your responsibility to tell your company how much it is going to cost for that particular project. So let us go to the methodologies of software cost estimation using different techniques like decomposition technique, empirical technique. Then we will also show the process of calculating the effort in each of these, and finally we will tell you how many years it is going to take and how many people are going to be employed. Please have a look at the slide. See, in this we are using the decomposition technique. In decomposition technique, we will be using the lines of code. The lines of code estimation uses historical data. Historical data means the data from the past projects. So whenever you are doing a project, you should also think of whether such projects have been taken up or not. If no such project has taken up, then project planning becomes too tedious. But at the same time, here let us assume that similar projects have been taken. Once you say that similar projects have been taken, then you should have data for those projects. So let me start with the details of each project and what are the different inputs for each feature of the calculation of the software cost. So please have a look at the table. The first project is named Alpha, and you have 12,100 lines of code in that. So the effort is 24. So 24 person months have been used. Effort means 24 person months. Person months means one person used for 24 months in this project. That is what it means, whatever you indicate in your effort. Then how much it costed? $168,000. Then how many pages of documentation you have written? Documentation means the manual that will be helping the users to use your software. So they have written 365 pages. Errors 134. Errors means it is not after the completion of the project, because if errors come after the completion of the project, then it is equivalent to not doing the project at all. So they are the errors which you got during the development of the software for that particular project. So here there are a total of 134 errors. Then comes defects. Defects and errors, there are a lot of differences. 29 defects means the problems that are arising after the completion of the project in the client side. You might be getting a question, can I say that all the problems that arise during beta testing also come under defect? Definitely. You should take them also as a defect. The reason is, when you are following a similar project, there is a chance that during beta testing of your project also such defects may come up. Then how many people are used in this project? 3 people. So there is one important thing here. Effort is 24, people are 3. Effort 24 means 24 person months. So 24 people used for 1 month. So here you are using 3 people. When you are using 3 people, you should use them for 8 months. So that is the equivalent calculation. So 3 people used, and it has taken 8 months. The reason is we are saying 1 person is equal to 24 months. So if 1 person does the project, it is going to take 24 months. If 3 people do the project, it is going to take 8 months. So let me just go through the statement once again. The project name is Alpha. The number of lines of code are 12,100. The effort is 24. The cost is $168,000. The number of pages of documentation is 365. The number of errors that occurred during the project development phase are 134. The number of defects that are found after the development is completed are 29, and the number of people that are used in this project are 3. Now you just cannot decide about your project from the data of just one project. The reason is your project is not going to be exactly any of these projects. Your project is something different. So you should use a collective experience of all such similar projects. But at the same time, if at all there are no similar projects, then you have to assess the entire situation by yourself. And as a project manager, you are going on a very unique project. You don't have any feedback. You don't know anyone who are using similar systems, and you don't have software engineers who have experience of working in similar industries. At the same time, you should tell the company how much it is going to cost and what are the requirements of the company, and you should take all aspects, which is going to be a very critical task. At the level of the student, you please assume that the project chosen by you is similar to some projects, and try to really work. Just when you choose a library management system, please go to 1 or 2 or 3 libraries. As I have given here example of 3 projects. Go to 3 different libraries, sit with the people, get the data, then make a statement of scope. In what way your project is different from those projects, then what are the problems that may arise which are not arised in those projects, and how you plan to cope with them, and what are the softwares you want to use, and how much it might be costing if at all you employ a team to do the project. Here maybe you are alone doing the project, or you might be doing along with the other students, and your counselor might be the project manager, whatever it is. At the same time, you should not expect your counselor to act as a project manager. You should think that you are project manager, because ultimately you are going to do your job in the industry. So you should just assume that you are preparing for the industry, but not for any exam going to be conducted by us. So let me go through the details of the second project. Please have a look at the slide. Beta. The number of lines of code required here are 27,200. The effort is 62. The lines of code are very clear. There are 27,200 lines, but the effort is 62, means 62 person months. So one person can do this project in 62 months. That is the calculation. So if you are employing 3 people, then you have to say that you can do this project in around 21 months. So in this way the things go down, but at the same time you should indicate in person months only. It is going to cost $440,000. 1,224 pages of documentation, 321 errors, 86 defects, and 5 people. So you should be able to guess exactly how long this project would have taken after getting the details of effort and the people. 62 person months. One person working for 62 months, and this project has been done by 5 people. So it is nothing but 62 by 5. You can take onto a positive side and say maybe around 13 months. So as a project manager, the person will say 13 months. It may go even up or it may go down depending on the changes in the situation. But on the day the project is planned, it is 62 months and 5 people. But anyway, since that is a historical project, the entire project is completed in 62 person months. And once he said he used 5 people, it means that he has taken 13 months to complete the project. At the same time, there are a lot of differences between the project alpha and beta. Please have a look. The lines of code are more than double. The effort is more than double. And the cost is nearly 3 times more. The pages of documentation is also more. And the errors are 3 times more. Defects are 4 times more. And the people are not even double. There it is 3 people, here it is just 5 people. They are not 9 people or 10 people as it is happening in the remaining cases. So you should never be proportionate. So if at all the lines of code of the beta project are 27,200 and since the lines of code of the alpha project are 12,100, since it is more than double, just don't take all the remaining features also as more than double. The data should be realistic. Basically, please don't try to do this project by sitting in your room, that is in your classroom. You have to go out, you have to go to the industries, you should find out the similar projects availability, just meet the HR managers there, tell them that you are doing such a project for the BIT program and try to collect the details of the projects and try to really work hard, because the project you may complete in 10 or 15 days without doing any of these activities. A mock project which is fit for nothing, but at the same time you have completed your task of developing the project. But it is fit for nothing to any extent in any interview. When you say that you have visited all these companies, you got this data and you spoke to them, you spoke to these people and you got this many errors due to the discussions and you are able to recover after some more discussions, all these things. It is not only going to increase your knowledge but also your ability and your visualization, and also going to increase your chances of getting employment in any software development company. So now let us go to the final historical project, that is Gamma. Please have a look at the slide. The number of lines of code is 20,200. Effort is 43. So here the lines of code is 20,200. The effort is 43 person months. So one person worked on this project for 43 months. Then immediately you may say how many people are employed, that is 6. So approximately it must have taken a bit more than 7 months for them to complete the project. So here more people you use, quickly you complete the project. At the same time you don't take this statement as it is, because it is going to vary from industry to industry, for which I will be giving an example. The next one is $314,000 is the cost. Then the pages of documentation is 1050. Errors are 256, defects are 64, people are 6. You must have observed one thing here. Even the number of pages of documentation is not going to change the number of errors. So you are trying to be very much clear through your documentation to your client, but still you have faced a lot of errors. So here all the tasks that are mentioned like LOC, effort, people, documentation, cost, all these are independent. So you should not think that more people, so definitely less time, more pages of documentation, so definitely less number of defects. All those things are totally different. At the same time, the statements of more pages of documentation, less defects, all these things may be true if at all you are developing your project using ISO 9000 standards, or you are following the level of SEI CMM, which stands for Software Engineering Institute Capability Maturity Model. This is a model that has been developed by the Carnegie Mellon University of US, and lot of companies will be trying their best to acquire the SEI CMM certification from the particular organization. At the same time, you have very few companies in this world which had really got that certification. So as a student, as a person who is doing an advanced software engineering project, you can also think of going through such documentations. All these documentations will be available on the internet. You just go to the yahoo.com website, go for SEI CMM level or ISO 9000 documentations. You will be able to find the material, though I haven't never seen them, and you can try to just go through them, just browse through and see to what extent your style of working on the project will change if at all you follow them. And it is going to be a very big positive point, and the returns will be huge, because there are very few software engineers who work in organizations which are having these certifications. One more certification is TIC IT. So you have 3 certifications: ISO 9000, SCI CMM level, and TIC IT. So the most important point is you are choosing a problem on which you are going to do a project, and then you need to know some projects which are similar to it. This is the key point, and you should be able to go there and get all the data which I am able to get in this table. Now, what are the different software project estimates? First of all, let me go through them, then I will be explaining each of them. Errors per KLOC, defects per KLOC, dollars per LOC, pages of documentation per KLOC, errors per person month, LOC per person month, dollars for page of documentation. Here KLOC means kilo lines of code and LOC means lines of code. So I request you to go through these steps once more. So let me go through the each and every of these topics. Errors for KLOC. In the previous slide, you have seen the lines of code. Let me once again take to that slide. Lines of code are 12,100. The number of errors are 134. Sorry, the number of errors are 134. So you have to calculate the number of errors per 1000 lines of code. So roughly taking 12,000 lines of code and 100 errors. So you can just divide the 12,000 by 100 and you can see it is something around 120 errors per KLOC. So in this way you need to calculate the number of errors per each KLOC. This is one important estimate. Then defects for KLOC. Here again the number of defects are 29 and the number of lines of code are 12,100. So again the same is the case. 29 defects for 12,100 lines of code. So you first have to convert all the LOC to the KLOC. So here 121, 12,000 for alpha project. Then for beta project it is something around 27. Then for gamma project it is 20 KLOC. For 20 KLOC you are having 64 defects. So it is nothing but 64 by 20 KLOC. So in that way you need to calculate the number of defects per KLOC. So this is how you will be making a standard list of estimates. The third one is dollars per LOC. Dollars per LOC here $168,000 for 12,100 lines of code. So you just have to divide the 168,000 by 12,100. That is going to be the cost per line of code. So for each line of the code you have written, how much it is going to cost you. That is what you are trying to get here. And this you will be calculating for each and every project. Let us see what will be the next item. That is pages of documentation per KLOC. So here 1050 pages of documentation for gamma project, where the number of lines of code are 20,200. So for 20,000 lines you have written 1000 pages of documentation. So it means that for each of 20 lines of code you have written 1 page of documentation. So the most important thing is 20 lines of code means it is not even one screen, because in one screen you will be having 24 lines. So for 20 lines you are writing 1 page of documentation means it is definitely huge documentation. So that is the estimate for that particular project. The next one is errors per person month. So in the first step we have seen errors per KLOC, but here it is totally different. It is errors per person month. So let me go to the project alpha. Here you have 134 errors and the person months are 24. So 134 by 24, that is the errors per person month. So it means that if you are using one person for 1 month, you might be getting that many number of errors. So it is basically a software project estimation, like depending on the manpower also errors may increase. Basically it has to do something with the concentration problem also, working in the most stressful conditions, under high pressures, trying to meet the target dates. All these things will also work. So there might be more errors when you are using few humans for the project. So let me go to the next point. LOC per person month. So for 1 month, one person, how many lines of code he had written? I hope you understood. LOC per person month. So one person worked for 1 month, how many lines of code he had written? For example, here 12,100 lines in alpha project, and the person months are 24. So 24 people worked for 1 month and they generated 12,100 lines of code. It means that 12,100 by 24, that is going to be the code written by one person, means the number of lines of code in that particular programming language or any other machine language, whatever it is, the language used, are written by one person in 1 month. In the case of beta, it is 27,200 by 62. In the case of gamma, 20,200 by 43. Basically it is giving the productivity idea to the project planner or project manager, I have to say. The final software project estimation is dollars per page of documentation. So what is the cost for each page of documentation? So even for page of documentation you have to calculate the cost. So let us see, $168,000, 365 pages of documentation, 168,000 by 365. But the most important thing is, after doing all these estimates, for example, if I am saying $168,000, the cost is including the manpower cost, the cost of the softwares, the cost of hiring the third parties, manpower agencies, marketing people, advertising, everything, and whatever discounts you offer to the clients. Total cost is $168,000. But at the same time, in the estimation, you are dividing with the pages of documentation and you are saying that is the cost you have spent on one page of documentation, which is definitely not true. So here what you want to deduce is, for one page of documentation you definitely cannot calculate the cost. The rough cost is 168,000 by 365. Definitely it is going to make a lot of difference, because it is not going to be even 1/4 or 1/5 of the cost which you get as a result of this division. But then that is the only option available to the project manager to do, because he cannot just calculate the cost for each page of documentation. Because for some projects you will be having people separately for writing documentation, but for some projects you will be having people like the software engineers themselves, they will be writing the documentation. And as I said, more people, less time for development is not true, because major companies like top companies, Fortune 500 companies, or top companies in the first 20 of the 500 companies, they will be having the backup manpower also. So suppose that a project is employing nearly 10 people, they will be hiring 20 people. 10 people are backup, 10 people are working. All the people get equal salaries, but if any of the frontline persons leave the organization, the backup person will be put in his place. The backup person will always be following up the work done by the person in the front line. So in that way, to reduce the problem of not meeting the targets, the industries will be employing the software professionals who will be sitting as a backup. So in this case, what is happening? The manpower has become doubled. The cost has become doubled in the case of manpower. But at the same time, the duration is not going to come down. The reason is, half of the people are not working. They are only being used as a matter of caution. So the statement that more people working on a similar project doesn't mean that the time that it takes for the development is less. It depends on whether you are really putting them to the developmental work, or are you using them for backup, are you using for something else like marketing or etc. So the software project estimates, which are based on lines of code, which is a direct approach, or errors per KLOC, defects per KLOC, dollars per LOC, pages of documentation per KLOC, errors per person month, LOC per person month, dollars per page of documentation. So these are different software project estimates. Now let us go through the pros and cons, means advantages and disadvantages of using this lines of code based estimation technique. What are the problems with this lines of code estimation and what are the advantages? Please have a look at the slide. So the advantage is finding historical project with LOC is easy, and the disadvantage is programming language dependent. So first of all, let us go to the advantage. Basically, usually only research projects will be unique projects. When you are working on a research project, definitely you did not find some historical project, because as part of research you cannot do something similar to which has been already developed. So the advantage is that in an industry, when you are working on a project, definitely there must have been some projects which are similar to the one you are developing. Maybe if not developed in your same organization, in some other organization, or else you might be knowing some organizations which are using similar type of software. So that is one advantage. You will be easily knowing what are the errors that may crop up, how much it is going to cost you, what will be the problems of the manpower, and what are the problems that are being faced by the users as of technology application is concerned. Is there any need to use some other technology, or should we adopt the same technology? Are there people who service that particular application after the development, and what is the backup work you have to do, and what are the prospects of getting the re-engineering of that particular project, or is it a real-time project that you cannot just think of a replacement if at all something goes wrong, which means that things should not go wrong. If it goes wrong, the project is gone. So you have to take care of all these things, and these things are possible in direct approach projects, LOC based projects. That is one advantage. Now the second thing is, when you are coming up with the estimations, you are not thinking of the language you have used. For example, writing a particular program in COBOL might be taking 100 lines. When you are doing the same thing in C language, it might be taking only 20 lines. So when you are thinking of similar projects, you are taking all aspects like errors, effort, the number of lines of code, defects, cost, everything. But then you are not considering the language in which it is developed. Let us say Gamma has been developed in C++, Beta has been developed in DBase, and other is developed in Java. Now all the three are totally different types of softwares. So the lines of code will vary. Then how can you club them, and how can you estimate about your current project? This is big disadvantage. At the same time, it is unfortunate that there are no alternatives. You have one more method, function point based method, but basically most of the people go for a LOC based because it is easy for planning. At the same time, there are problems as you go through the project, and the planning has to be repeated whenever the situation changes. So the advantage of LOC based software estimation is finding historical projects with LOC is easy. Then the disadvantage is they are programming language dependent. Now let us go to the function point based estimates. Please have a look at the slide. See, when you are going for function point based estimates, you have to take care of nearly 5 points: number of user inputs, number of user outputs, number of user inquiries, number of files, number of external interfaces. So how many inputs your project is going to get, how many outputs you are going to give, how many times user will be just interfering in the process of input to output, the number of files that are going to be used by the software, and the number of external interfaces. First of all, you have to collect this data. After collecting this data, you have to go for a formula. Please have a look at the slide. That is, FP estimated is equal to count total into 0.65 plus 0.01 into sigma Fi. Basically, here count total is nothing but the total number you have written in your previous number of user inputs plus number of user outputs, like that. At the same time, whenever you are adding them, you will be using some constant. The constant will be depending on the complexity of the project. So after adding them, you will be getting the count total, and then you have to apply this formula. Then there is one term which you don't know in this formula, that is Fi. Fi is nothing but I stands for 1 to 12. There are a total of nearly 12 points which will be using to calculate this formula. Please go through the slide. All the 12 points are visible there. Does the system require reliable backup and recovery? Data communications required? Distributed processing functions? Performance critical? Will the system run in an existing heavily utilized operational environment? Does the system require online data entry? Does it require input transaction to be built over multiple screens or operations? Is there any need for master files to be updated online? Are the inputs, outputs, files or inquiries complex? Is the internal processing complex? Is the code designed to be reusable? Are conversion and installation included in the design? Is the system designed for multiple installations in different organizations? So in this way you have a total of 12 points. On each and every point you need to associate a constant depending upon a number 0 to 5. So F1 might be equal to 3, F2 might be equal to 5, something like that. Then you have to add all these to provide the input for the formula. FP estimated is equal to count total into 0.65 plus 0.01 into sigma Fi. So in this way you will be calculating this particular formula. So then you will be getting the function point. So let me wind up here due to the constraint in the time. We will be continuing in the next session. So here you have seen how to compute the function point, and after this calculation of FP you need to calculate several constants. Basically they are available from the standard tables, and then you will be able to find out the number of person months, the cost estimation, the number of people needed, the number of lines of code may be guessed from the historical projects. So I request you to go through some book like R.S. Pressman, Software Engineering Practitioner's Approach, etc. to read the necessary theory and only then start the project. In the next session I will be continuing with this one and also concentrating on systems analysis and design and other things like how to evaluate your project, how to maintain quality and maintainability, etc. So thank you very much.